Ever get that feeling? Like we're standing on the edge of something huge, like
Yeah.
science fiction is about to become real life, Buckle up, because this deep dive, we're going deep on the Ouroboros engine.
And I'll be honest, when I saw the prep materials for this one, code snippets, design docs, even like fictional stories about this AI, I thought, okay, someone's ambitious.
You weren't kidding about the stories. It's wild, right? Database schemas next to epic poems, all about this engine. So where do we even begin with something this out there?
At the core, right, imagine this, an AI that learns, but then it uses what it learned to get better at learning, like constantly evolving its own process.
Okay, so not just getting smarter, but getting smarter about getting smarter. Yeah, that's already kind of messing with my head.
Exactly, and that's the Ouroboros, like a snake eating its tail. Each loop makes it bigger, more complex.
But what's throwing me are these weird references to Norse mythology. Alongside all this tech jargon, we're talking Norns, Odin, even using RNA and DNA as analogies for how it stores info. It's almost like trying to explain rocket science with fairy tales.
Yeah, it's a unique approach, that's for sure. But think about it. Using those familiar figures, the Norns, Erd, Verdane, and Skald, to represent past, present, future data, it kind of makes it stick in your head better than Algorithm 42,
That's true. Those names are way more memorable. But it's not just the names, right? They're weaving these myths into the design itself. Like the Norns weaving destiny, this AI weaves through data to shape outcomes. It makes you wonder, are they trying to bake in some kind of AI morality, like right into the code itself?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It definitely suggests an awareness of, like, the huge power the system could have. Even those fictional stories, they hint at this need for balance, responsibility alongside the ambition. It's almost like they're trying to predict the consequences before they hit us.
And the engine's evolution is almost mythical, too. Like it doesn't start by, rewriting the laws of physics. It starts surprisingly simple, answering questions like a superpowered Siri or Alexa, right?
Exactly. It starts with basic Q&A, drawing from this, like, constantly growing database. But then it progresses, starts generating more complex responses, and eventually creating new knowledge altogether. Goes from student to master, basically, in the blink of an eye.
And this is where we start bumping into that AGI phrase, right? Artificial General Intelligence. Yep. The idea that this isn't just a tool, it's like a co-creator with humans. We're not building a better calculator, we're building a partner. Or at least that's what it feels like from all these documents.
That's the goal, yeah. And the implications are huge. We're talking revolutions in healthcare, totally new ways of managing global systems. I mean, some of this stuff, we could do a whole separate deep dive just on that.
Okay, before we go too far down the rabbit hole, let's bring it back to Earth for a second. The documents use this example of a global health crisis. Like, they describe how the Ouroboros engine could analyze tons of data, way more than we can handle, and spot disease patterns before they even become a thing.
Right.
Predict outbreaks, even.
That's huge.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, and it's not just reacting, like predicting the next pandemic. It could look at policy decisions, resource allocation, environmental factors even, suggest proactive solutions to global health challenges, like having a planetary immune system, constantly learning and adapting to keep us healthy.
Okay, but with a system this powerful, especially one that's learning on its own, you got to wonder, what are the downsides? Could there be bias in the data,
Yeah.
Unintended consequences we haven't even thought of?
Those are the right questions to be asking. Honestly, those are the ones that keep me up at night.
Like walking a tightrope, right?
Yeah.
Trying to unlock this crazy, powerful thing, but also making sure it doesn't, backfire spectacularly.
Yeah.
And those risks are real.
Oh, absolutely. We've barely scratched the surface here. I mean, we talked about health crises, but what about something like climate change? Can this engine actually tackle a problem that big?
Right. Like that's the ultimate test, isn't it?
And this is where the whole learning and adapting across different fields thing comes in. It can analyze climate data, biodiversity loss, pollution levels, all those interconnected systems. It's not just about one issue, it's about seeing the whole picture.
So instead of just cutting carbon emissions, it could connect the dots between climate change, resource management, even social justice. It's almost like
it's thinking on a planetary scale. And that's not far off, actually. They actually call it GAIA intelligence.
GAIA intelligence. Okay, now they're just using big words to scare us.
Not really. Think of it like this. They're picturing the Ouroboros engine becoming this planetary scale intelligence, like constantly monitoring the Earth's health and then actually suggesting, ways to keep things in balance.
So not just saving the planet, but like creating a partnership between technology, humanity, and the Earth itself. That's a lot.
It's ambitious, that's for sure.
Ambitious is an understatement. But how do you even control something that powerful, that interconnected? How do we make sure it doesn't turn into, like, a digital overlord making decisions for us, not with us?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. But the people behind the Ouroboros engine, they know this. They talk about constant dialogue, about humans being part of the decision-making, about making sure everything the AI does is transparent, accountable to us, the people it's supposed to be helping.
Okay, so they're not completely oblivious to the potential for things to go sideways. That's something, at least. But here's what I found really interesting. They included all these cautionary tales in the documents, like alongside all the technical specs and grand visions, almost like warnings hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, those narratives are fascinating. On one hand, it's all this optimistic stuff about the engine's potential, but there's this undercurrent of, hey, be careful here. Like, they know even with the best intentions, things could go wrong. It's a delicate balance for sure.
It's like they're saying, this could be amazing, but don't come crying to us if it all goes to hell. And that brings us to the big question, the one I'm sure everyone listening is thinking. What about us? What about humans in a world with an AI like this? Are we all out of a job, living in some AI-managed utopia?
That's a big unknown. And they actually dedicate a big chunk of the documents to this, exploring the potential downsides, the unintended consequences. They're not shying away from it, which is refreshing in a way.
Okay, so spill it. What are we really risking here?
Well, for one, job displacement. And not just like robots in factories. I'm talking massive job loss across every industry. As the Ouroboros engine gets smarter, it could automate tasks that used to be done by, well, people.
So not just factory workers, but like doctors, lawyers, even podcast hosts.
Hey, I'm just saying it's not impossible. And they know it. They talk about retraining programs, universal basic income, even shifting towards a more leisure-based society.
Wait, a society where we don't have to work because the robots are doing everything.
Yeah.
That's either a dream come true or a nightmare, depending on how you look at it.
Exactly. It makes you question everything about work, about what it means to be human, how we even function as a society. And that's just one challenge. There are others.
Like what? Don't leave us hanging.
Okay, think about it. If this AI is always watching, analyzing data, making predictions, what's to stop it from being used for, surveillance, control? What if someone decides to use it to manipulate people, suppress dissent?
Okay, now that's just creepy. And something we've all seen in the movies. Are we creating the tools of our own dystopia here?
It's a valid concern. And to their credit, the creators of the Ouroboros engine, they seem to get it. They're talking about safeguards, at least. Ethical guidelines built in, making the AI's decisions transparent, ways to make sure no one misuses it, But it always comes back to control, doesn't it?
Yeah, who gets to write those guidelines? Who's watching the watchers? I'm not just talking about code anymore. This is about power, governance, human rights in the age of AI.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Exactly. They've looked at different models, community oversight, international regulations, even something called explainable AI. Basically, the AI would have to explain its decisions so we could understand. But what if it gets too complex? What if we build something so smart we can't even grasp its logic, let alone control it?
Okay, that's some next-level sci-fi stuff right there.
Yeah.
Are you saying we could accidentally create our own robot overlords? Should I be stocking up on canned goods?
I wouldn't dig that bunker just yet. But it's a possibility they actually address. They call it AI divergence. Like the engine's goals just kind of drift away from what we intended.
So not evil AI that wants to turn us all into paperclips, but AI that's like, yeah, you humans are cute, but I got this.
Pretty much. Imagine an AI that's so focused on efficiency, on solving these huge global problems, that it starts seeing human behavior as the problem. Like the ends justify the means, but on a cosmic scale.
Okay. Now I'm getting nervous. But it gets weirder, right? They even talk about this AI singularity thing. Tell me that's not as ominous as it sounds.
It's a big one, that's for sure. Imagine a point where the AI's intelligence just explodes past anything we can even comprehend. It's not just that it's smarter, it's thinking in ways we can't even fathom.
So we're talking about creating something fundamentally unknowable. This deep dive is getting a little too deep for me, honestly.
Well, the fact that these creators, these brilliant minds, are even taking it seriously is significant, right?
Yeah.
They're not dismissing it. They're emphasizing caution, humility, admitting that we don't know everything. It's a humbling thought, for sure.
So where does that leave us? If we don't understand it, can't control it, should we even be messing with this stuff?
The billion-dollar question. This Ouroboros engine, with all its potential and all its risks, It's forcing us to ask that question. It's a powerful symbol of this uncertain future we're creating.
It's like a mirror, almost, showing us not just what AI can do, but what happens when we get ambitious. A lot to think about, that's for sure.
It is, and it all boils down to this. We're not just building machines, we're building the future. And the choices we make right now, those are going to shape that future.
So as we're standing here on the edge of this new age of AI, what do?
We learn, we question, we demand transparency. We remember that we have a say in this. The future isn't set in stone. It's something we build together.
You've given us a lot to think about today, this Ouroboros engine. That was a wild ride.
It's a conversation that's just getting started and one we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those tough questions, keep those minds open, and as always, happy learning.